It's hard to explain the feeling of an allergic reaction to someone who's never experienced one. 1. Your heart drops in your chest the second you swallow. 2. You take a shaky breath to remind yourself that you're still breathing, and you are, at least for now. 3. Your chest rises and falls. Maybe you're crying. Maybe you're just sitting there unable to move. 4. Your hands are shaking. You put them on the table in front of you to steady yourself. You scratch at your throat, trying to escape your own body. 5. Take another shaky breath. Don't worry, you are still breathing. 6. Aviv. You are breathing. Aviv. This is just an anxiety attack. You didn't eat anything today. It can't be an allergic reaction. 7. Inhale. You are not dying. Exhale. 8. Just breathe, you whisper. For my entire life, I have been surrounded by anxiety. My parents' constant worries, whether it be yelling at me not to touch my sibling snack, or teaching me how to double or triple check the label on a food box. Even as a toddler, I could not escape, and so over time, I learned that the only way to be safe was to be scared. I've suffered from severe food allergies since I was around 8 months old. At the time, the only thing I was conscious about was probably my favorite stuffed animal. I was allergic to any food that will come to your mind. Peanuts, nuts, all seeds, wheat, soy, eggs, milk, and beef. My mother, afraid of me being trapped in a situation where I could not speak for myself, made me a bracelet. Fit for a toddler, but it had a much deeper and more important purpose. It listed all of my most severe allergies. Now, I've outgrown almost all of my allergies. I'm only allergic to peanuts and nuts, and I'm sensitive to sesame and mustard. This was my most recent allergy test. But my worries surrounding food have only risen since my childhood. In about 8th grade, for the first time in my life that I can consciously remember, I was anxious about something. I had my first memorable anxiety attack the summer after COVID hit, and I'm more than positive the two are related in some way. Anxiety, depression, and eating disorders in teens all increased during the pandemic. And according to a CDC survey, 44% of high schoolers reported persistent sadness or hopelessness. I'm not sure where my sudden rise in anxiety came from or what triggered this specific attack, but I do know one thing. Anxiety was instilled in me through my severe childhood allergies, even before I knew what it was and what I was supposed to be anxious about. Although most of my anxiety surrounding food has come in the last few years, when I was as young as 8 years old, my worries surrounding food consumed me at times. A vivid memory of this is when I went away with my brother and some family friends, and for 2 days I refused to eat. 2 days of going back and forth on the phone with my mother while my brother held my hand as I tried to stop crying long enough to eat something. I had recently had a close call with sesame, and although I was seemingly fine, my anxiety was hiding just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to strike, as anxiety always does. This wasn't the last time that my fear of ingesting an allergen interfered with my eating. When I started struggling with anxiety later on as a teenager, there were months in 9th grade where I was sometimes too terrified of having an allergic reaction to eat, even if I talked to a cook or restaurant beforehand or checked the label on a food box. Even now, there are times where I'll opt to skip a meal, even if I know the food is safe. Even though 8 years old may seem like a young age for someone to be experiencing this level of anxiety, it's actually incredibly common in young children with food allergies. In 2020, 5.6 million children in just the United States alone were diagnosed with food allergies. 57% of these children reported symptoms of anxiety, which is almost a 19% higher rate than kids without any allergies. Although the issues of food allergies in children are steadily increasing, there's another epidemic on the rise in children: anxiety. In 2020, an additional 5.6 million children were diagnosed with some sort of anxiety disorder. 1 out of every 3 children ages 13 to 18 will be diagnosed with some sort of disorder, which means here, at Masters, about 230 kids, give or take, suffer from some sort of anxiety. And that's only diagnosed disorders, meaning many kids never seek or receive help. It's important to note the overlap between an anxiety attack and an allergy attack. Dizziness, stomachache, nausea, shortness of breath, an impending sense of doom, and a feeling of tightness in the chest or throat are all shared symptoms. And because our brains want us so badly to believe that our anxiety is real, it will jump to the easiest possible conclusion. For me, my brain uses my allergies as a coping mechanism for the anxiety I'm feeling. Although most of my anxiety manifests into my allergies, I also struggle at times with health anxiety, academic anxiety, fits of social anxiety, and sometimes I'm even anxious about the possibility of feeling anxious. For a long time, I was afraid to tell my friends and my family about my feelings of anxiety, even though I'm not the only one in my family or even of my siblings who struggles with anxious thoughts. I have at many times in my life wondered if there was something wrong with me. Why do I feel like this? Why do I worry so much about things which I just shouldn't worry about? So, as many people do, I hid my fears, letting them take over my mind instead of just talking about them. But I came to realize that the more people who know about what you're going through, the more people who are able to help you. So, if I ate something and felt anxious afterwards, even if it felt stupid or uncomfortable at first, telling someone how I was feeling made me feel less anxious. Not talking about anxiety is one of the main reasons why so many people live their entire life without diagnosis. There are many things which can help soothe anxiety. Physical activity, a balanced diet, so long as it's free of allergens, a healthy sleep schedule, and relaxation exercises may all help. When I first started struggling with severe anxiety, my brother taught me to do jumping jacks or push-ups. After all, your throat can't be closing up if you're able to breathe while doing 30 jumping jacks. One of my favorite methods to prevent or control anxiety is to plant my feet on the ground, take a deep breath, and try to quiet my mind. I'll point out 5 things I can see, 4 things I can hear, 3 things I can touch, 2 things I can smell, and 1 thing I can taste. Not only does this distract me or you from the anxiety at hand, but in moments where you feel like your fears are taking control of your mind, methods like these ones help to remind you that you are in control of your thoughts. My allergy anxiety is not always a bad thing, nor is any anxiety always unproductive. It's a primitive instinct we have to warn us against activities which might threaten us, and I would much rather be overly cautious than not cautious at all, especially in situations where my life could be in danger. But I've learned that when anxiety starts to interfere with your everyday life, like going to school, being with friends, or in my case, eating, it may be time to reassess your situation. I go through months in my life where I have no cares in the world. But commonly, once every few months, I have a week or 2 of severe anxiety, usually over something completely irrational, often related to my health. And I try to remind myself that although my mind can be worried for good reason, it's not always right. There are small changes that I make to my life during these periods. For example, if I'm having an especially anxious week, I tend to stay away from caffeine, eat foods I know I won't feel anxious eating, or simply just try to get more sleep. I've learned over time that when I feel anxious about something subconsciously, it appears to me in fits of health or allergy anxiety. If I'm worried about school or social situations, instead of being anxious about that, I have a harder time with my allergies. Not always, but there are things your mind is worried about which it just shouldn't be worried about at all. Anxiety will never just disappear. You will always have moments of panic. Anyone who tells you that there is a permanent cure to anxiety is wrong. But it's important to remember that what we can do about our irrational thoughts is not let them control us. So the next time you, a friend, a child, or even a parent is feeling anxious, remind them that their anxiety cannot kill them, that they are in control of their thoughts, and gently tell them to take a moment and just breathe. Thank you.